Hello, welcome to Music of the Armenian Liturgy. My name is Armenia Sarkisian, and today we're going to be focusing on the Megheti Harg. I'll explain what that means, talk a little bit about the history, show you exactly where to find it in the Mass, and do a musical analysis before showing you my performance of this beautiful Armenian melody. So stay tuned for that. Or you can use the time codes in the description box below to skip right ahead to the music if that's what you're here for. Let's get into it. Megheti means melody. The melody sung at this part of the Mass is always appropriate to the day, signaling to the congregation what the Mass is dedicated to. The Megheti can be one for Harutian, which is for ordinary Sundays dedicated to the resurrection of Christ. It can be one for Zinantian, dedicated to the birth of Christ, Chacheruchian for Feast of the Holy Cross, Transfiguration, Assumption of the Virgin. Each of these have their own Meghetis. The Divine Liturgy doesn't begin at the elevated altar space known as the Choran, but rather among the congregation. The celebrant will acknowledge his weaknesses and human frailties by reciting prayers of confession, forgiveness, and absolution. After that, the celebrant and the altar servers make their way onto the altar, and while that's happening, the choir or soloist will sing the Megheti. If the Catholicos, Patriarch, or Bishop is celebrating the Mass, then we'll sing the hymn Under Yalet before the Meghetis. But we'll get to that hymn in a different episode. The text was written by Surp Nerses Shnorhali in the 12th century. He was the Catholicos of the Great Armenian Kingdom of Giligia during the Dzofk or Hromgla era from 1166 AD to 1173 AD. Saint Nerses was a major theologian, poet, writer, and composer of many of the hymns of the Armenian Church. During his time as bishop and later as Catholicos, Saint Nerses worked on reconciling and reuniting the Byzantine and Armenian churches. The negotiations eventually collapsed after a poor offer by the Byzantine emperor that Saint Nerses and the Armenian Church rejected. Saint Nerses the Gracious is considered one of the greatest literary figures in Armenian ecclesiastical history. He revised and recompiled the Armenian Book of Hours, and wrote many of the key hymns and chants used in our daily prayer services. The text for this Megheti is as follows. Ais Harg Naviranats Uchti. In this covenantal sanctuary, Diarn Dajaris, of God's Church, Jogovyalks Astanor, we are gathered here, Ichorut Bashman Bagadanats, to present our ceremonial intentions, Arachiga Surpadarakis, of this present Mass. The text continues even from here, but the arrangement by Magar Yegmalyan, which we'll be focusing on today, ends at Diarn Dajaris. This Megheti is in G Aeolian mode. Most Meghetis are melismatic, and this one certainly fits the bill. There's lots of rich ornamentations and lengthened phrases, making it more difficult to perceive the words and creating a peaceful trance-inducing effect. Two of the characteristic chords in the Aeolian progression is minor 1 and major 7, and we find that everywhere here. Aeolian mode falls into the minor 7 chord category, and we see that with our opening chord. However, there are other modes that fall into this category as well. If we were just to play the G minor 7, we could be in G Dorian or G Phrygian, so we have to find that second characteristic note of the Aeolian mode, and that would be the major 6. So let's find that E flat over here. There is one E natural causing a C major chord in the third system, and that would be the secondary dominant, which we discussed last week. That 5 of 7 is creating a temporary tonicization on C major, right over here. And back to that G Aeolian. Okay, time for the Megheti. Enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Music of the Armenian Liturgy. Next week I'll be in Los Angeles, so I won't be at this set, but I will be posting an episode for you on Tuesdays as usual. See you then.